Hello and welcome. We are so glad to have you here. If you're with us on Facebook or YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to get notifications when we have new videos. If you're with us on Zoom, drop a hi in the chat. We'd love to say hello back. And if you're with us in person, hello, everybody. Let's give a great big hello back. No, I'm just kidding. I don't do that. So if this is your first time, go ahead and sign our guest book, either in the lobby or at oakcliffeu.org/guest. Sermon is "And We'll Go On" with Daniel Polk. All right, so huge, amazing, giant congratulations to Tammy on the birth of her new baby. We are so happy for you, and I know that we are all so excited to meet him when the time comes. If you would like a link to her registry or to Renee's baby registry, because she is due in September, then please go ahead and email pastoralcare@oakcliffeu.org, and we will get you a link and you can shop the baby registry. Everyone likes shopping baby stuff, right? All right, announcement. We are encouraging everyone to write to your legislators. We will be providing postcards in the pass-through at church with a list of addresses. We will even mail the postcards for you. All we need you to do is let them know what you're thinking about what they're doing. And I know we all have some thoughts on that, don't we? So also, if you'd like to donate postcards, bring them on Monday or leave them with Rita on Tuesdays or Thursdays from 9:30 to 3. All right, let's talk scheduling at the church. We have had some conflicts. So if you are using the church grounds at all, even a classroom or the library or Hope Chapel charity on there, or if you are using a Zoom channel, please schedule it with Rita so she can put it on the calendar. I know what you're thinking, oh, it's just half an hour. Just schedule it. It's better for everyone. And you'll even get air conditioning to your area, which you might not get if we don't know that you're going. So schedule your events. All right, very, very exciting stuff. Sarah is holding several meditation sessions every week. I've heard amazing things about these. So to find out more and to see the schedule, you can check out the e-blast, visit our website at oakcliffeu.org or our calendar at oakcliffeu.org/calendar. All right, you know that we're doing tons of amazing stuff at the church, and there's just too much to squeeze in here. So go and check the e-blast, and you will find out about all of the outreach that we are doing right now. Lots of the great work there. Workday Wednesday, we're not going outside, but we are still getting a lot done. The upcoming board meeting on the 20th, widening the circle of concern updates, and so much more. Go and check it out. It is Sunday, and we don't leave you hanging after the service. Have fun all day long. Join us at 11:15 for Talkback, where we talk about the sermon and related topics. It's always great. You always get something out of it, whether you want to talk or just listen. We also have Adult Religious Exploration at 11:30, which is always a fantastic time, Sarah. So pick and choose. Come on, join your friends. All right. Member anniversaries, and we have 2 fantastic anniversaries today, so everyone get ready. Happy UUCOC anniversary to the fabulous Debbie Toe. And second, last but never least, happy anniversary to RC Aldana Flores. Happy anniversary, you two. To the 2 of you and to everyone else out there, I hope that you all have a very happy Sunday.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Oak Cliff. So glad to have each and every one of you with us this morning. For those not familiar with the church, we're not a creedal church. We would love to support you in your own spiritual journey and search for meaning in life and for the deity or the creator or whatever feels fulfilling to you. And we welcome you to join us for your search. We look forward to getting to know you and quite likely to be changed by you. Thank you for being here this morning.
May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of love, compassion, and forgiveness. Que esta luz que ahora encendemos nos inspire a usar nuestros dones y poderes para sanar y no para herir, para ayudar y no para impedir, para bendecir y no para maldecir, para servirte a ti, espíritu de amor, compasión y perdón.
Break Down Barriers by Reese Williams. Spirit of life, come to us to break down barriers, to widen horizons, to make us less judgmental. Help us to see the larger picture and the kinder conclusion, to love and let live, to embrace and forgive, to sustain and care. Help us to reach out to our better selves that we may love more and hate less, care more and reject less, that bound together by understanding we may sustain each other through trial and tribulation, through joy and happiness, through sickness and health. Help us, O God, to be joined in a common purpose of hope and fulfillment. Renew and revive us. We seek a common holy ground for one and all. Amen.
Faith of the larger liberty, source of the light expanding, law of the church that is to be, old bondage not withstanding, faith of the free, by thee we live, by all thou givest, and shalt give our loyalty commanding. Heroes of faith in every age, far seeing self-denying, broad and increasing heritage, monarch and creed defining, faith of the free, in thy dear name, the costly heritage we claim, their living and their dying.
Because we love one another, we honor each individual's spiritual journey. We celebrate life's abundance in spirit to each other, our community, and the world. Connect with each other in love, accept, and acceptance. Thus do we covenant together.
Porque nos amamos uno al otro. Honoramos el viaje espiritual de cada individuo. Celebramos la abundancia de la vida en el servicio entre sí, nuestra comunidad y el mundo. Ponemos en contacto a unos con otros en amor, respeto y aceptación, así que hacemos pacto.
You are not alone with your sorrows, just as I'm not alone with mine. Each week, we share our concerns, and for frequently a heavy heart can be lightened by sharing.
When I breathe in, I breathe in peace when I breathe out. I breathe out love when I breathe in. I breathe in peace when I breathe out. I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love.
We also have promises to one another to celebrate together. For that which brings you joy, makes you grateful, brings you peace, we, your sacred community, celebrate with you. To magnify joy, heighten the gratitude, and spread everlasting peace. You may share your joys by posting them in the Zoom chat if you're here virtually.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirs of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Good morning. First, I want to do a little check-in. Who's new to this congregation? How many people, any first-timers? Who's been a member for less than a year? How about 5 years? Anybody been a member 10 years? I know some, 15, 20, 25 years, 30, 35 years? You've got me beat because I've only been 34 years. Anybody who raised your hand, you have stories to tell. Some of my story. I'd left the Presbyterian Church as a teenager and wandered for a decade before I was ready to find UUism. There was even a college roommate who said, "You'd like UUism." And I walked past the church every day on the way to and from college. Never stopped. I was anti-church, but I still wanted to be part of the institution. Finally, I was going to political meetings at Dallas First Church and said, if I'm here on Tuesday nights, maybe I should come back on Sunday mornings. I did. I walked in and knew I was home. And to give you a little perspective, The first sermon I heard was why we should oppose the nomination of Robert Bork to the Supreme Court. Gives a little perspective. I was soon staffing the donut table, which helped me in many ways. I got to know many of the church leaders, and for the first time I was officially out. It took me a while for people to realize that people knew I was gay because I was working the LGUU table, not because I was wearing a sign. That table became an institution. When I was in charge, we would order 10 dozen donuts for Easter Sunday. That was a huge order. More recent years, that was an average order. And instead of stack a table, they now have tall carts, and there's a little refrigerator for snacks. Okay, my reaction was a little bit like Charlie Brown seeing the metallic Christmas tree. They've gone commercial! Still, donuts are a steady fundraiser, several thousand a year, which is a lot of dough. The yeast helps raise it. Okay, Carol, there you are. The donut table has other functions. Before the name became interweaved, the weekly presence of the lesbian gay UU sign made a statement, and people would meet and get to know others they might not have otherwise. And I have to tell a story. A few years ago, there was a student in the 8th grade OWL class. Our whole lives is sexuality education. This 8th grader, 13 years old, found out that being gay or lesbian means more than selling donuts on Sunday morning. I'd been a member for about 5 years, the first time I attended leadership school, before it was even called Dwight Brown Leadership Experience. I went 12 years later, and it was easier. It was like drinking from a garden hose instead of a fire hose. One way we coped with that deluge of information was telling light bulb jokes, and we did the standards. One to hold the bulb, and a million to turn the world, and of course, variations on that beloved electrical committee. We also told some new ones, and I thought I'd share because anyone else is far too polite. So, how many UUs does it take to change a light bulb? I'm so glad you asked. At least 4 or 5. 1 to facilitate, some to carry out the task, and 1 to explain the process. Perhaps we don't need to change the bulb at all. We need to re-examine our own expectations. After study, we might see that the light bulb has merely evolved, and attempts at external change might actually harm the eco-cycle of said bulb. And could you please be more specific when you say change? Finally, one of my answers, we don't need light bulbs. We like chalices. It was ironic and distressing that we knew the jokes, but few could tell the story of the flaming chalice. Over the past 60, 70 years, it's become widely used as our denominational symbol, used in worship and printed on just about anything. For 6 centuries, the chalice has stood as a symbol of truth and a beacon of liberty. Here's your history. Jan Hus was a Czech priest ordained in 1401 and Roman Catholic until his dying day, as well as a radical who laid much of the groundwork for Martin Luther in the Reformation. From his church in Prague, he preached in the native language on issues of the day and morality and goodness of the people. He also passed the communion chalice to the parishioners as well as the priests, implying that they might actually be equal. Revolutionary concepts, all of them, at a time when the church was in crisis, with 2, then 3 popes. Despite great personal danger, Huss stood firm in his beliefs for more than a decade. After a sham trial, he was burned at the stake, but not before he made a pun on his name, which means goose in Czech. Today you may be burning a goose, but from my ashes shall rise a swan you will never kill. The flames we have for our chalice as his ideas live on today. We've had many other martyrs and heroes over the years, but that's another sermon or two. Now, if you've read the blurb, here's the part you're expecting. Highs and lows at First Unitarian Church of Dallas. Founded in 1899, That's before I was born. It grew steadily for 3 decades, outgrowing rental spaces and the first building. One high point was in 1923, when Rabindranath Tagore, the first Indian to win the Nobel Prize, spoke. Betsy Yost, I remember when her telling of that, she was there as a child and told of his sandals and flowing white robes, which would be a sight today in downtown Dallas, but even then it certainly was. The records say there were 600 people attending and another 500 outside. I don't really believe that because average attendance was 100, and I've seen the picture of the building. There might, if people were standing elbow to elbow, you might have 300 there. Maybe they weren't there at the same time. More recent years, in 94, Robert Fulgham preached. He'd gotten a start at First Dallas before he went on to become a best-selling author. All I needed to know, I learned in kindergarten. There were 500 people in the sanctuary. I saw them that were elbow to elbow, and another 100 in the chapel watching a large screen TV. The story was the sanctuary looked like the public library because there were people who'd gotten there an hour early to claim their seat and sitting there reading their books. And here, what are the big events in this congregation? But at first, tough times did lie ahead. In spring of 26, the minister took ill and died after about 6 weeks. The local rabbi took the pulpit for a while along with other guest preachers. In 1931, congregation shut its doors, lost the building. We'd been very dependent on a few wealthy individuals. When they fell on hard times, the institution nearly collapsed. Hardy Sanders, who was a pillar of the church, helped us learn from this lesson. Though very generous, he and Betty often used challenge grants to inspire others to give. For 7 years, it was the Women's Alliance which kept us connected through a phone tree. They kept the member records, maintained the charter, and helped finance the rental space when we resumed services. That's why First Dallas qualifies as the oldest UU congregation in Texas. Houston thought they were, but got a little surprise. After 4 years of meeting in rental space, a minister was called, and we went on. In the 40s and 50s, with McCarthyism and the Red Scare, there was a time of sustained growth for the church, no, not without adversity. Men and women attended service to take notes on the sermons. And the FBI monitored people's telephones. We grew in spite of and because of such challenges, partly because our minister, Robert Rabel, did not give up. And we went on. Louise Raggio was another pillar of the church, and she died about 8 years ago. She and Greer had moved to Dallas shortly after World War II and found First Church. In the pulpit was this preacher who, according to her conservative Lutheran upbringing, were saying things that were going to land him in hell. She stayed. That support network proved vital when Greer was fired from the government for being a suspected communist, though neither one of them could talk about what was going on. Reverend Rabel, or as he later became known, Daddy Bob, and Rabbi Levi Olin were the only two clergy in town who did not stop preaching against the witch hunts. Louise told about it and said they were both physically small in stature, and they would shake their fist and declare, "This is wrong." And they kept on. Greer was rehired, though left as soon as he was able to start his own law firm. He did civil liberties work throughout the 1950s. In November of 63, he got the telephone call to go downtown. ACLU headquarters called him to represent someone named Lee Harvey Oswald. Louise told him, "You are not going downtown alone." 2 church members escorted him while at that first and only hearing. Meanwhile, Louise got her own law degree and went on to have a groundbreaking career, including a PBS documentary. Just 2 of our beloved activists. They helped us go on. Daddy Bob retired in 64. We had a tough time when Dallas really needed a strong liberal presence. Remember, this was the city that was stronghold for the John Birch Society, where Adlai Stevenson was attacked, where Lady Bird and LBJ were spat on. This was the city who killed Kennedy. Reverend Lissa Jenkins tells that her 5th grade class erupted into cheers when it was announced that JFK had been assassinated. Often a lonely voice for liberalism, we went on. After the glory days of the Daddy Bob years, first had a time of more highs than lows. Our first choice for minister had to decline the call because of illness. We ended up with a former priest who wasn't ready for ministry. While he threw out anything resembling Christianity, he was autocratic and tried to run First Unitarian like a Roman Catholic Church. You can imagine how that went over. For that reason and others, we had to fire him halfway through his 3rd year. Some people said 2 weeks, but we gave him 30 days. It wasn't an easy time, but we went on. Some practical advice if you're ever on a search committee. Get to know as many of you ministers as you can for comparison, as well as finding some you really like. Watch their sermons online, read their writings. Attend conferences whenever you can and get to know UUs in other cities so, unlike us, you don't have to rely on recommendations from the congregation that just wants to see their minister move along. 3, visit congregations whenever you travel to hear varieties of sermons and assorted ministers and to see other styles of worship. After that failed ministry, there were a few good years when with Dwight Brown, then another person who was not a good fit for 2 years. Evidence that 80% vote is not enough when calling a minister. 90%, or better yet, 95%. During those Brown years, a small group of women started working on reproductive rights, and their efforts led to the Roe v. Wade case. You might have heard of it. Mary Lou Hoffman is the only one still alive, but she doesn't talk about that much because she's looking forward, going on. Same for Pat Davidson, whom I remember. In the 1970s, there was high turnover and experimentation. Sometimes it was an interesting journey we went on, but we went on. Social action presented challenges in the 80s with deep disagreement over the sanctuary movement and on being a nuclear-free zone. There was a congregation meeting in the spring of 87 that included some nasty name-calling in the sanctuary at the meeting. It took time to rebuild that covenant, but we went on. By 1980-81, things were in bad shape. John Buren said that when he arrived in August, he'd been here in April and things looked good. He comes back in August. Half the staff's been laid off. There was $3,000 in the bank, and that each and every one of the skylights all the way around the building leaked. Buckets everywhere. Things are better now, and we're going on. It is important that we do go on to be a presence in today's complicated and contradictory society. We need our voice. In the Pacific Northwest, you might be asked if or why you go to church. But in the South, the question is where you go to church. And if you answer you don't, then you get stigmatized, isolated, your career's hindered. Of course, you'll never be admitted to the junior league. Like many of you, I need my church to go on in today's world. Personal story, if I may. Some years ago, I was asking what had helped myself in my personal growth. One of the 2 things that came immediately to mind was the blessing and unconditional acceptance I found in my church. And important for me, from heterosexual men, something apparently I'd missed while growing up. Some more stories now, the ones I remember. After all, I've only been there 34 years. Tom Irvin was a loyal and dedicated member. He sang in the choir, was served on the board, and as the volunteer basis was organist for 7 years. When he became ill in the late 80s, the church stepped forward. Board members brought him meals, scrubbed his kitchen floor. Alice Horn, who probably didn't do her own laundry, did his with her own hands as her testament to her friend. She did his mending. Nurses were amazed that Tom did not enter the hospital until his last 2 weeks, but it was his care group of 165 people that made that possible. Toward the end, we suffered through some pretty awful hymn playing, but we were tolerant because Tom's music was one of the things keeping him alive. Remembering him and others, the congregation goes on. June and Warren Trish could sing hymn number 12, O Life That Maketh All Things New, without even opening the hymn book, because they've been members in Oklahoma City, where it was the closing hymn every week. We pretty much lost June to dementia, but at Warren's memorial service, she sat right up and sang along. Carol Benson, another friend, said, "Church is where they have to let me sing." Danetta Surgison always had a cheerful word and helped at the book cart, volunteering until the day she died at age 87. In a year when I'd seen several friends die of AIDS, I was grateful to attend the service for a person who had lived a long, full, and happy life. Many other memories: Christmas pageants, hanging of the greens, helping make dinner for the staff on Christmas Eve, all sorts of classes, youth lock-ins, wedding, coffee houses, graduating seniors, helping with the donut table in the nursery, and many a potluck. Then there was December of 91. Sunday morning it was announced that the intern minister was leaving early, not ready for ministry. That afternoon we found that a former treasurer of the church, the trustee who was heading up long-range planning, had taken his own life. The next day, the niece of a staff member was one of 4 girls murdered in an Austin store. It was difficult, but we went on. And it was the week that the president of the church gave birth, and on Thursday showed off her baby to board members who'd gathered to process Rick's death. The next Sunday, as we dedicated a new chalice, Reverend Holman wove together the human life cycle with bits of UU history in a sermon she called Infant Hope and Steady Light. And we went on. There have been other high points. In December of 99, we had the centennial worship service. We went to Temple Emmanuel, where we started. This time we counted. There were 875 people. We did not lose members with Laura Holman's retirement, and there's still more than 1,000. And we're hiring another person this fall. He arrives next month. A third minister. There are 3 ministers on staff, along with lots of other professional staff. But there are, of course, always budget challenges. 12 years ago, we started the new office and classroom building with 5 adult RE rooms. It's wonderful. Then we rebuilt the social hall, tore the old Channing down completely and with assorted side rooms, and there's now a second elevator on the property. We're uptown, and we're going on. Years ago, when we installed Daniel Cantor as senior minister, there were about 600 people in the sanctuary that if we get real chummy, we can seat 500. There were people sitting on the floor in the aisles. The vote to call Aaron White as associate minister was 351 to 0. We can be unanimous. I can't tell you exactly where or when, but we're going on with worship, education, and social action to help enrich people's lives. Finally, let me say I'm not in favor of growth just to say that we're big. But larger numbers tell us that we're reaching people who need to hear our good news, people who need to hear the word of UUism. That's another sermon. And growth isn't measured just by numbers. There's the acronym OMNI: numerical, organic, maturational, and incarnation. I'll discuss that later. Just let me reiterate, I do not promote growth just for its own sake, which can create an air of desperation. But I remember Laura Holman saying, growth is a natural outcome for an effective and healthy congregation. If you've got strong, vital programming, people will come and join. If you don't have that, why not? And also, a word of advice, if you find yourself in a big congregation, join a group. Coffee hour is not where you make your connections, where you build the long-lasting bonds. Join a group. Choir. There are people in choir who have been singing in choir for 35 years. That is where they share joys and sorrows. So I close with a challenge and a question. I ask you to listen to each other as you tell stories, the highs and lows of this congregation and maybe others where you've been, what it has been and done and what it's meant to you in this community. It's been here for 60 years, right? I also want you to share your dreams of what this congregation can be, how it could grow, and how it can touch people's lives. How can you and those people yet to come through the doors, ministers and lay people, build on foundations laid by earlier generations? Now, to close in words used for decades to close prayer at First Church Dallas. We ask this in the names of all those known and unknown, present, absent, remembered, and forgotten. We ask this in the names of all the helpers of humanity. Blessed be.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
We, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Oak Cliff, commit ourselves to the study and dismantling of racism and oppression within our congregation. We commit our congregation and ourselves to the work of anti-racism and anti-oppression. We commit ourselves to listening, to learning, and to action. When we fail, we commit ourselves to trying again. We covenant to begin this work and to continue until all of us can truly say that we are a loved community of justice, equity, and compassion.
Our widening moment today is a poem from Reverend Teresa Soto, to the people who have mistaken freedom for liberation. To be free, you must embrace the breadth of your own existence without apology, even if they try to take it from you. You must know, not that you can do whatever you want. You are not a kudzu vine eating entire hillsides for the purpose of feeding your own lush life. You must know instead that inside you are entire universes, milky blue, magenta, and gold, expanding. But to actually be free, you must know and you must fight for the entire universes inside of everyone else. Being free is not a license, but a promise.
Let there be an offering to sustain and strengthen this place, which is sacred to so many of us. A community of memory and hope, for we are now the keepers of the dream. We'll pass baskets now, and all the usual things apply: cash, check, whatever form you want to donate. But if you have made a pledge of a certain amount to the church and have cash that you would like to apply to that, just slip it in one of the envelopes provided and put your name on it. There are other ways to give. You can text your donation to 214-225-5996. That's the simplest way. I like that a lot. You can also go online to oakcliffuu.org/donate, and it will offer you other options of ways to donate to the church. Thank you.
As We Go Forward by Cheryl Black. As we go forward into this brightening, exhilarating, confusing, miraculous world, may we offer our comfort to the afflicted, our love to those who are lonely, and our wish to all to be safe.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Extinguimos esta llama, pero no la luz de la verdad, el calor de comunidad o el fuego de nuestro compromiso. Estos los llevaremos en el corazón hasta que estemos juntos otra vez.
Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere, its temple all space, its shrine the good heart, its creed all true, its ritual words of love. ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple space, its shrine the good heart, its creed all truth, its ritual works of love.
Amen. It's good to be back. One of the things that I so appreciate from the message this morning is the idea that we must go on. And the way that we go on was so eloquently captured in the idea that we must dream. That's our responsibility. Our responsibility is to dream. What do we want from UUCOC? First, what do we want from ourselves so that we can breathe that into the life of this ministry? And then what do we want from this ministry so that we can live that out in the world? That is our opportunity. That is the gift that we give each other. And that is the gift that we give to the world. Let it be so. I have been thinking for weeks now about what I would say in this moment today, and curious about why we would have a message on the things that happened at First UU. I understand now is it's an opportunity for us to see what we can be. Not to see what we are not, but to see what we can be and what that can be for us if we all choose to dream, literally. And y'all know I've been asking y'all that question for over a month now. So thank you for bringing that in. And as we go forth today, I ask you to rise as you are able. And again, I will ask you this time to find someone in the congregation to share something that you want to dream into this space. Thank you so much.